What's going on, guys? Felix here from Podcasting Secrets and Shopify Masters Podcast, and today I want to talk to you about how I had to start thinking about failure differently because now I'm getting worn out and burnt out from strings of failures, and I think a lot of you guys might be able to relate. So I've always had dreams of being a certain type of entrepreneur, having a certain type of business, being able to grow to a certain scale, and I spent a lot of time talking to successful entrepreneurs on my podcast, and I've always had these goals, right, that I've set in my mind, but I think as part of the journey, and I think anyone that's on this journey knows that there are more failures than successes, and there's sometimes strings of failures over and over and over again, and for a long time that was fun, right, because I was being powered through hope and ambition and energy, vitality, maybe just from being younger and not having as many responsibilities. I can kind of pursue it at a much higher clip and be able to push through failures more because I'm just not as worn out. But nowadays, maybe because I'm older, maybe because I've had more years in the game, quote unquote, more wear on my entrepreneur body, it's becoming more tiring, more taxing, harder to kind of get up when things aren't working out as well and things aren't succeeding at the pace I want. So I started recently thinking over this past year, I've been trying to think about failure differently. And for a long time I used to, the failure would come, and then more recently I started thinking about how can I think about this in a way that is not going to actually wear me out, that's actually going to help me on my journey towards my entrepreneurial goals, financial goals, and whatnot. And I started thinking, like, what if failure is just a step on the journey? I hear people say this all the time, but I didn't really get it until I'm starting to see more clarity with it. And I started thinking, like, maybe failure is, I can think of it as like a recalibration, right? Being able to recalibrate my aim before I take aim again. And that a failure is just me noticing that, okay, I got to adjust a little bit to the left, adjust a little bit to the right. Just like you see in like old World War II films where they're shooting those like mortars or cannons or whatever. There's always a guy that's shooting, and a guy loading, a guy shooting, and a guy that's looking through binoculars seeing where it lands. And when they shoot once, it lands or it misses, they communicate, okay, yeah, go a little bit to the left, go a little bit to the right, go up a couple degrees down or up, and recalibrate. And what they don't treat each miss as a failure, just treat it as a way to recalibrate how much they should shift directions, how much they should adapt. So that was my big realization, was trying to think about it that way rather than thinking about it as a failure and kind of throw everything out the window. I started thinking about how can I extract data from what I've done and the miss that I've made and use it as a way to recalibrate, and then as my next project, or even if I'm working the same project and I have a new strategy in mind or a new tactic in mind, how can I use the quote unquote failure or miss to recalibrate my aim so that I can get a little bit more precise over time and just get a little bit more and more precise. And I learned this recently with a podcast that I did on Shopify Masters Podcast, where I talked to a entrepreneur that was making soaps basically, and what she told me was that the key to her success was just sticking it out, staying in the game, because she was 6 years in now and just grew by 600% this year alone. Mostly six figures, almost $1 million per year of business, and she was able to do it only because she was able to overcome this imposter syndrome and these failures, because she felt like she was failing for 5 years straight, but somehow she's still able to be in it. Because I think she said that she was stubborn, and that was what was kind of powered her through. But for me, I don't think I have the same kind of stubbornness, but I do need something to keep on pushing me through. And the way that I'm going to start thinking about these failures and as I'm progressing through my journey is to think about it as just a way to recalibrate, right? Okay, that was a miss, but how can we recalibrate to aim better? So if you're starting your business, your store, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, think about it that way. Think about if things aren't working in the right way, don't think of it as a failure. Don't throw it all out the window. Use the data intelligently and use it as a way to recalibrate your aim before you take launch again the next time around. So hopefully it helps you out, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye-bye.